Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It is your Capes Crusader, Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our brand new friend, Jeremiah Espinoza of Hallowed North. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing, man? I'm so excited to finally get you on.
I'm fantastic, Cody. Thank you for inviting me on the show. I've been really looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, man, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, we had such an awesome breakdown earlier. Let's start to kind of recap on that. So you said, with Hallowed North, it was your first like break into like the indie scene, like where you were like managing, other aspects of this. But like, what was some of your first breaks into the actual like indie writing?
So my first experience writing a comic was a part of an anthology called the Pub Crawl Anthology by Bad Neighbor Comics, run by Jameson Alcorn. He posted a call for submissions on Reddit. I saw it on Reddit. I knew that I wanted to start writing comics. I had no idea where to even begin, though. I didn't know what the scripts looked like, didn't know how to get started whatsoever. So I just kind of trolled Reddit for a while, looking around, seeing what I could find. And most of the anthology pitches that I had seen required artist collaboration, required some work already done, or a complete team put together, which for somebody who had no experience, no knowledge whatsoever, it was kind of daunting to kind of immerse myself in that community, try to make friends with that community, unproven, like have no actual background to show, hey, I can write a script, this is what I can do. So whenever I saw the Pub Crawl Anthology, where his setup was writers are going to submit their pitches, their scripts, artists are going to submit their portfolio, and we're going to take that and we're going to put together the teams ourselves.
That's kind of a cool concept, though.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And it gave me complete, nobody, never done anything in the field, the in that I needed. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. I think whenever I found out that it was there, I had like 2 days to put together the script.
Whew.
And yeah, so I had to quickly figure out exactly what I wanted to write about, get that script together and shoot it on over to him. And out of, I felt like it was just a shot in the dark, and by luck, I managed to get in, and that introduced me to the love of seeing my panels turned in, my panel descriptions turned into actual panels, and seeing the art put together, and then seeing the letters laid on top of it. And it was just this amazing experience, and one that validated, yes, this is what I want to do, because I've been a writer since I was a kid. Since I could write, I've been a writer. I have really shitty poetry from when I was in like 4th grade that I won an award for. But
that's impressive, though. I mean, that is impressive
for a 4th grader, sure. But I'm being judged against other 4th graders. It wasn't like I submitted to the Pulitzer or whatever. As I got older, I kind of graduated to different writing formats. I tried my hand at writing a couple of novels whenever I was a teenager, and then whenever I got into high school, I was a part of the film class, and so I wrote screenplays, little short films here or there, and I really liked that. And for a while, I thought that's what I was going to be doing. But going through Pub Crawl Anthology, going through that whole experience, and actually and seeing the comic process from start to finish, even in just the small little microscopic 8-page version of it, that gave me the reassurance that this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to focus on, because I kind of was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, chasing all these different writing fields prior to that.
What was your story about that you submitted?
So the story, when the criteria of the anthology was it had to take place at least partially in a bar. And so I immediately knew that I wanted it to be told from the perspective of that one drunk guy who sits at the bar every night and kind of rambles to whoever will listen.
Oh my God,
like,
yes.
What if we take that guy, and what if he's actually saying real shit? Like, what if he's saying something that we should be listening to, or something like that? And so then I was thinking, well, it'd be really cool. I have 8 pages to tell this story. It'd be really cool if I got as much mileage out of those 8 pages as I possibly could. So I thought about this story of, let me make this guy go to this bar every decade, once every decade, and he takes this beverage every decade, and it extends his immortality for another 10 years. And so every page we start off in a speakeasy, prohibition era bar, and then we see it translate, we see that bar turn into a jazz club in the 40s, and then in the 50s it's a sports bar, and so on and so forth as it goes on. And we're following this guy, and it's one conversation. The way that the script is written, it's one conversation. Like, the guy's talking to different people in each page, in each decade he's talking to different people, but it's the same spiel over and over and over again. And at the end of it, he realizes, that he's experienced his living, he's experienced life, and he's ready to go ahead and move on. So it's the last day, and he decides that, oh, you know what, I'm not going to take this drink tonight. I think I'm good now. And so that was actually that was the closer for the anthology, and it hit the ending perfectly, and
that is impressive too.
That it was the closer.
The fact that it was like your first submission, and I mean, if it's a closer, that has to have some weight to it, right? Like, they finished strong, right? And I'm really curious, because that is such an insane and in-depth concept. Like, what was that process like for you over those 2 days? Like, the fact that you did that and fit that in 2 days is insane.
I think at the time I was still going through, chronologically speaking, I had a pretty severe depressive episode, and in my mid to late 20s, like from 26 to 28. And that was when Hallowed North was kind of conceived. The whole concept of it and the idea behind it was conceived. So 2016, 2018. And I think that I was just, I appreciated having something to focus my time on, because I think what I was doing in that spare time, I was just coming out of a divorce. I was just getting used to joint custody with my kids, having to share my kids between households, which
living
is extremely
hell.
difficult.
Living
yeah,
hell.
Absolutely. And so at the time, I think that, God, I don't remember what it's called, like Movie Pass or Movie Club or something like that. There was this card that you could buy, and you could go watch movies. And so that's all I did. Like, literally, that's all I did to distract myself. And I was really grateful for the opportunity to distract myself with something that was a little bit more productive. And so it really helped me out to focus on the story and to put all this effort into the story, because not only did I have to write it, I had to edit it all in that short time span. And I was really getting I wanted to give it my best shot that I possibly could, because I felt like this really was, like I said, most anthologies require you to find the team and put it together yourself, and for a complete novice to the game, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm a pro now all of a sudden. No, I'm still learning every day, right? But for a complete novice who knows nobody, this was an opportunity unlike any other, and I knew I had to take my shot, with it and give it the best that I could.
Man, sorry, not to interrupt, but when you were talking about the Movie Pass thing, I can relate to that so much. Like, when I went through my own experience with my own children, it's like, for me, it was finding that sense of normality, that routine. Like, I could watch a movie and I could watch it again, and I know what's going to happen, and I could I guess escape within it. You know what I mean? Because life at the time was unpredictable. Sure. I had no clue what was going on, and you could just invest yourself in a movie. And dude, when you said that, I was like, damn, dude, so much of this is connected. And the whole thing with children is a living hell in itself. Going through what you're going through with the divorce, but adding your children on top of that, because that's your heart. You know what I mean? Oh, fuck. That was some heavy stuff you went through, man. And the fact that you had to shake all that off to knock that off in 2 days, that is insane. And my biggest thing is building up to this, this had to have been your moment of your moment. You're I can do this. You know what I mean? After 2 days in a pinch, having to edit this, how did it feel when you got that acceptance letter, and then they were yeah, we're using you as the closer as well?
It was unreal, actually. I had done a bunch of writing that I kind of left in my drafts folder. I always called myself a writer. I always felt like I was writer, but I always had kind of like this bit of imposter syndrome too. How can I call myself a writer if I haven't published anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was definitely some validation there, and I felt like it was a great step forward. It was a great start to really trying to get out there and really trying to get my writing career actually started off the ground. And then I, you know, like I mentioned, you know, I was in the middle of a bunch of other stuff at the time, and that kind of got put on the sidelines. That writing career kind of got put on the sidelines while I focused on all that other stuff, until I said, you know, I really got to do this. I really have to. I've got to give something my shot, and I went with Hallowed North, the story that I felt so strongly about, because there was a few years in between that pub crawl anthology publication. I think we worked on it in 2018, funded for it in the fall of 2018, and it came to print in that following summer. So there was a 2-year window between that and my next book, you know.
How did it feel to finally shake the dust off and get back to it?
It was kind of scary because this was the real test, right? This was doing it on my own, and not on my own, of course, because you know you have your creative team, and a few days ago there was some Twitter discussion about artists and writers and who's the co-creator of the book or who's the creator of the book. I don't know if you saw any of that.
Yep.
I can show you what Hallowed North would look like without my co-creators. It would not be as interesting. It really wouldn't. So I'm definitely of the camp that, you know, the creative team on board, everybody, you know, puts their part in it, and everybody help bring the book to life. Without it, it would be, you know, words on a page. Descriptions on a page.
You know, I kind of had a similar stance on that, because I held we had a space, and there was a lot of discourse on that, a lot of talk about that. And for me, like, I don't know, I hold no weight in it. I'm just the person who reads. I'm just the person who like interviews. So like, I can't really be like, valid point. Like, cause like, Cody, what have you done? You know, kind of like what you said earlier about like, you know, I'm a writer, but I don't have anything published. Like, but for me, like, if there's no art, like, it's just a book, right? It's just a novel. It's but like the art like tells so much of it, and it helps, like, you know, give you that emotion that words can't express in a comic, or you know, words can't express like in a panel, like the art does, you know. So I was really, you know, I was on that stance as well.
Yeah. And even less so than a novel. A script is a collection of words that you probably don't want anybody other than the artist to read anyway. It's filled with like notes here or there. Some people write really descriptive panels that are like framing it exactly like it's a shooting script or something for a film. Like, you know, 1/3 of the character needs to be up in the front left panel. Character 2 is further in the back, and you see her feet or whatever, right? But yeah, for me, it's I would not. I get the writers who want to hold that creator title close to themselves, because stories are very personal, a very personal creation process. Everybody who creates a story has some tie to it. You know, it's your own. It's a small version of a child, or you know what I mean. So there's a lot of love and there's a lot of personal connection to it, and I get not wanting to let go of that. But on the flip side of that, if you decide to put together a team and you try to bring them together and you are relying on them to create the work, whether you're paying them a page rate or they're saying, you know, we're just going to do this as a team or whatever, they are, in my opinion, they are co-creators of the story. Well, and you have to be willing to let that go. You have to share that. Yeah,
I agree. I think the biggest thing that caused that conversation to happen was the creator of Invincibles, I think, told his artist, and this is all, of course, like what I heard secondhand. I of course wasn't there, but like told his artist, like, hey, to make things easier, it'd be easier if I was the creator of this and you sign off. And then Invincibles ended up making millions of dollars, and he was like led astray by it. You know what I mean? So I think that's what kind of sprung, like, should, you know, the co-creator thing, because in that instance, that was kind of a dirty move, if that is true, you know.
For sure.
But yeah, let's let's get back on
yeah, sorry about that.
Of course,
Sorry.
no, you're good. That's my fault.
To answer the question, there was a whole lot, and the question was, how did it feel to shake off the rust? It was, it was terrifying to shake off the. It was great to actually
had to
start
find this
working
team,
on the
right?
script.
You had to do all this.
And I had more experience now. I had a little bit more to offer now. I could show people, hey, I've done a comic before. I have a script. I think I know how to be economical with my panels and my pages, and I have a little bit more experience now with it. So I scoured Twitter looking for an artist to partner with. I looked on Fiverr. I looked on all sorts of social media platforms trying to find somebody who might be interested. And when I found Jay's work, Jay Chic, I found him through a mutual on Twitter. I knew just from looking at his portfolio, I knew that his art style was perfect, because that's something that I hadn't really considered before seeing his work.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at great artists, and I was seeing all these talented people, because when you start to make a comic and you're looking for a team you're looking to build a team, you're gonna find many talented people, and you're gonna find a lot of skilled people who might not just be good for this particular story. That doesn't make them any less talented. That doesn't make them any less right for something else. It just means that for this particular story, you need something a little different. And Jay, seeing his work was like, okay, this is the nail on the head. This is the eureka moment. I need this guy to agree to be part of the project, and I need to do everything within my power to make sure that can happen. Luckily, Jay was on board from the moment he heard the premise. And I've had the opportunity now to work with him since September of 2020, I want to say.
Okay.
Starting early with like commissions here or there.
So what was that premise you gave him?
The premise was, this is what Hallowed North is. This story told entirely from within the mind of somebody struggling with a very severe depressive episode. And from that, we're able to capture the struggle that actually goes on within somebody. Because whenever you're looking at somebody with mental illness, whenever you're an outsider to that experience, you see somebody laying on a bed, doesn't want to get out of bed all day, or you see somebody who's just kind of moping around, or maybe their depression manifests in different ways. Maybe it tends towards anger, or maybe it tends, towards a different expression. But what I wanted to do, and the whole reason I even came up with Hallowed North to begin with, was to try to figure out some way to express to my family how I was feeling, while I was dealing with this shit. Because as a kid, it's easy to kind of fall into your depressive holes and kind of stay there. Because, especially for, at least for me, I was an only child, and I was frequently just kind of hanging out in my room on my own. It's really easy to just kind of chill in there and fall into that hole and kind of stay there. As an adult, with all these responsibilities, all of a sudden, when you have kids, and when you have a job, and when you have relationships that depend on you, you're showing up for all of that stuff, but you're dragging ass while you do it.
I call it autopiloting. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, where you're just going through, you're going through the motions. You're not really there. You're surprised you're there to begin with, right? Like,
and that's definitely not fair to the people that you're with. That's not fair to the people that are around you. But at the same time, you want to kind of give them some insight to it, because what you're going through can't be validated through some external image. It's not like you fell and broke your arm, where you have an X-ray to show that you have a broken arm. It's not a bee sting that shows you that swells up or whatever. It's something that's completely internal. It's something that's completely physically non-recognizable until those other effects start taking shape or whatever. If you have weight fluctuations or things like that. But even then, there's still so little effort in some environments to really try to understand mental health. If you look at for guys, men in general, we're not really encouraged to talk about our feelings ever. We're told to kind of shove that down, and especially yeah, absolutely. And then for like growing up as a Latino, that was like doubly in that case, because not only did you have the your masculine culture that you had to have enforced on you, but you also had this machismo bullshit that you had to follow up with too. But
yeah, what do you mean by that?
So
hold on one second. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, we're good. Ambulance.
There's an ambulance. Okay, I was gonna make a cracked-in shootout. But no. They're at least growing up, and I can speak that there are positive steps being made. There are changes, but even now, family and people that I know, and I'm not dogging any particular member of my family. This is just what we've been brought up to believe. Not really such a thing as mental illness. Not really such a thing as
I gotcha.
An imbalance. Yeah, and I see that more prevalently in say like my Hispanic family, as opposed to and Hispanic friends and friends family and stuff like that, as opposed to just in general like American culture. I feel like that's starting to make more of an effort to recognize that. Now granted, like I said, there's been huge steps made towards normalizing mental illness, but it's because we've started talking about it. It's because we don't shy away from these kind of conversations. It used to be that if we tried to bring anything like this up, they'd be embarrassed and they'd insist, we don't talk about this. Mike Birbiglia, he's got a brilliant stand-up special called Sleepwalk with Me, and it's completely unrelated to mental illness, but it is related to an embarrassing medical condition. And his dad tells him, whatever you do, don't talk about it to anybody. Like that's his one rule that he can't do. And the joke is that he's telling it on a stage in front of hundreds or thousands of people, right? The only way that we're going to normalize it is by talking about it, whatever uncomfortable conversation that may be. And so that was the whole goal behind Hallowed North, and telling what that goal was to Jay, showing that struggle, showing that that war. I call it the war from within, is what I call it. It was what I called it in the pitch anyway. Showing that was very important to me from the get-go.
So, off topic a little bit. I guess from someone who comes from my own personal hell, how does it feel to be able to break that chain with your children, to be able to teach them that it's okay to talk about it, where you weren't really able to do that, to be able to give that to your children?
Sometimes I worry that I'm overcorrecting, honestly.
Dude, it's crazy, isn't it? You're like,
Yeah. Am I reading too much into this? Am I projecting onto them? It's like a fucking chess game, It's like you're just trying to do the right thing. You're trying to make sure that the kids know that they're safe. It's great to know. I feel good knowing that I'm doing the best that I can. I look forward to hearing whatever they complain to their whatever they say that they complain to their therapist about whenever they're in their 20s, right? Like I look forward to seeing how I screwed up. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, and family. I think as long as you do your best. Like I had a really great support. I had a supportive mom. I'm not shitting on any of the efforts that she made, because she did put me in therapy whenever I was a kid. She sought help. But we learn, we grow, and we learn, and we adapt, and we'll see how things go. I'm hoping that they'll come out all right, though. Minimal traumatic experiences, I hope.
So let's give a shout out real quick to the rest of the creative team, and then let's kind of summarize Hallowed North. Let's kind of break it down a little bit.
Okay. So Jay Sheik is our artist extraordinaire. He, like I mentioned, I've been working with him since September 2020. He's been on the project since day zero. Matt Krotzer is our letterer. really talented guy. Whenever I first took on this project, I was thinking, well, I can save a little bit of money and letter myself, right? And I opened up, Adobe Illustrator, and I tried to give it a shot. I was like, oh, this looks like absolute garbage, because you don't realize good lettering until you see bad lettering.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I need to find somebody. So I took my time, and I found Matt. Matt's absolutely talented. He's a boss, and the way that he makes the work flow page by page, it fits so perfectly. And there's one particular instance in the side story Sick Day, which is at the end of the first issue. It was a stretch goal that we were able to accomplish,
which that felt kind of like a throwback, right?
Yeah. There's this one scene where a glass shatters in the sink, and he incorporates the sound effect, the SFX of the glass shaking directly into the art, and it's just beautifully done. It's perfect. The dude is skilled. Never in a million years would I have been able to do that, much less even think of it, you know?
And that just goes to show you just how important that is. Like, just to touch base on what we were talking about earlier, like how the creation, like the co-creator argument and everything, like, you know, even with a good artist, that letterer added just that much more of a layer.
Yeah, absolutely. And he incorporated it perfectly. Leland Bjerg, I think is how I pronounce his last name. I haven't had an actual conversation with Leland in person talking. I believe that's how you say his last name. He's our editor. When I took him the first script for Hallowed North, he sent me back a few notes. Mostly he helped me learn how to actually properly format a comic book script, you know, or the closest to a standard that there is. I know that's a whole nother debate that could come up, but showed me, like, for a letterer, what a letterer would like to see. That script I had already worked on pretty thoroughly, pretty heavily for like a year and a half, right? With the second issue, when I brought it to him, he's like, okay, well, we got a laundry list of things that we got to look at this time around. Leland is incredibly intelligent. He knows story structure. And when I got these notes back for the second issue, I read through them and I was like, holy shit, this is the missing piece. This is exactly what the story needs to make sense. And
that's another argument that's going around Twitter all the time, is like the need for an editor or not. Like, so it's awesome that you're touching base on that too, because it's crazy to hear like what they bring to the table and stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody's watching right now, Jeremiah Espinoza, he's a great collaborator. I can't mention the creative team without bringing up Heather Vaughn, who has done variant covers for both issue 1 and issue 2 of Hallowed North now. And
that's cool that you stuck with the same variant artist too. A lot of people like pick up different ones. Any reason behind sticking with her?
She's fucking awesome. She's amazing. I want to do a book with her one day. In fact, I reached out to her at the beginning of the year, or like in February, I want to say, probably. And I asked her, hey, you know, I've got a couple of ideas in mind, looking to see if you might be interested in it. And she's like, well, comic work, I'm booked up for 2022. And I was like, well, shit, I guess I'll, you know, touch back and see what we can put together for 2023 or 2024.
She must be good if you're willing to wait.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, dude. She's making moves. She's extremely talented. I hope that I get to do a book with her one day. But variant covers, I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah, let's go.
In the meantime, she did wonderful with the second issue, or with the first issue's cover, and we got to feature one of our other main characters, and same thing with our second variant cover. I'm definitely open to of course working with other artists. It just kind of made sense to go to her first and see if she'd be interested in doing it again. And I do like that I was able to bring back the entire creative team. I feel like that says that I'm not a complete asshole to work with, and that I'm not too controlling or too demanding. Because like if they wanted to, I mean, all of our obligations were done after issue 1, and I was kind of worried about that the entire time. I was like, Jay's not going to want to come back for number 2. I was dealing with like a lot of like second guessing myself and insecurity and how I was kind of managing the project.
You must have did good because they all came back.
Yeah, I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that one.
Yeah, hey, give yourself some credit, man. And I had a chance to read issue 1, and let's break it down just a little bit before we dive into the pre-launch campaign. Man, wow, this started off so strong. We have our main character in the shower, and we're left with a trail of blood, but we're not yet shown exactly what's happening. And I thought that was a really unique way to like kind of begin it.
Yeah, I knew what I wanted to I wanted to give some sort of illusion that there was something wrong, something wasn't right. Mm-hmm. And but I also didn't want to just be so on the nose about what exactly was happening at this present moment. I wanted to kind of help build up the suspension to lead to the reveal on page 4, which is our first look at the monster and to see what's going on with him. So it was just an exercise in restraint, while also kind of giving a little bit to the reader to kind of keep them moving forward.
So you say a lot of this is like a figment of imagination. Like what parts can we tell that are real? Like, was the shower scene like a real event that happened, or was that something that was also like played out in his head?
So in actuality, in the first script, presently there's only one scene that we see that's our current reality, and that's towards the tail end of the issue when we see an adult Ben Ramos packing up the bedroom of his deceased grandfather. This is kind of where we pull back the curtain and we reveal what's going on. Everything else that we see prior to that is either a memory or fantasy. It's all a part of Hallowed North. It's all this, and that's how I pitched it. It's a patchwork quilt of fantasy and memory that all these things kind of combine to make up this mindscape that these characters are going to be going through. So when we see the monster is depression personified. He is the infection. He is the virus. He is, what's seeking to destroy, Hallowed North. To Ben, Hallowed North has kind of been his little escape. It's been the way that throughout his life, he's kind of gotten through all the difficulties that he's had to face, compartmentalizing things, creating these little figments. We call them vapors, mm-hmm. people or memories, things that he doesn't want to let go of, or things that he wishes were a little different. So for example, we get to meet Ben's real family. We get to meet Ben's family in the beginning of the book. These are memories. These are examples, or these are examples of his actual real life that he had at one point, growing up. And we get to see how disconnected and how uninterested his mother is. But then we see what he wished a mother would be like in Vivian. We see in Vivian the character, the kind of mother that he wished he had growing up. And as we continue through the story, we're going to get little pieces of these idealized versions of people, these things that are kind of keeping him aloft right now. Mm-hmm. And we're going to eventually see their plot lines converge and eventually see how they take on the monster, how they take on this threat to their existence.
The way, real quick, we have Red Sea Comics over on YouTube stopping in and say this interview is fire. I have to agree. Like, I'm loving this deep dive into it. Like, it's almost as beautiful just to hear the creative mind and process behind it as it was like reading it for the first time. It's like, I was like, so when we're introduced to Del, I was like, what's going on here? And I do want to dive into Delve, but like when we got to the twist of what it was, when you pulled the curtain, I was like, wow, the neocortex? Like, did you create that? Like, or is that like a real thing, like in depression? Like, is that based upon anything, or like, what was your inspiration for that? Cause that's so like in depth, man. I loved it.
Well, there's been a little research done. Oh, and thank you for the compliment. By the way, I'm having a lot of fun doing the interview. It's always fun to talk about, really, anything that you're passionate about, especially if it's creative project that you've been working on. Also, just been fun to talk to you, Cody. Like it's just
Yeah,
been
thank you,
a nice
thank you.
conversation to have. Um, the I did some slight research, a little bit of science. I did a little sciencing to kind of figure out that the neocortex is where like your memories and imagination, and somebody could completely like flag me for that right now. But from what I read, that's where that information is kind of stored in the brain. So that is an actual thing, and supposedly that's from what I've read, that's where those components kind of lie. That's the part of the brain that takes care of all that for you. So I like the idea of kind of showing that in some sort of like neural flare, like showing some electricity sparking or whatever to kind of indicate that that's what's going on. And I when I knew that I needed to show the reader, I know that I needed to answer the question, what the hell's going on, at least to some degree in that first issue and fairly quickly, because there is a lot going on and it can be confusing. So to get those answers out of the way early and get some of those moving, because there's definitely a lot that still hasn't been answered yet, and there's definitely a lot that you have to stay tuned to find out. But I felt like I needed to give the readers a firm footing to at least understand the basic rules of Hallowed North itself as a place, to be able to enjoy the story a little bit more. And Dell is he's it's a frequent type of character used in stories. He's the outside man that we can use as a reader surrogate to kind of introduce those rules to. Mm-hmm. I do think it's funny that our outside man our baby of the story is an old man, because technically he is. I mean, that he's a vapor that was created in a very short time span. He is the complete novice to this environment and learning everything. To him, everything, he's still coming to terms with the fact that he is a vapor, that he's not a real entity.
I loved how you had that like internal like conflict where they're like, well, this might seem real, but this is actually what it is, and the way like Dell like just had conflict with that. I really enjoyed that. Like, you did a really good job with that.
Yeah, and well, thank you. And we get to see that. Well, when she there's a line where she says, am I gonna have to space you? Or there are some vapors that struggle with that too much to the point where they're not able to exist within Hallowed North, and they have to be expelled. And they try not to do that, because if the real adult Ben has mentally gone through the process of creating one of these things, there's a reason for it being there. And Maggie says that to Dell, there's a reason that you're here, Dell. And we kind of find that through all the vapors. We learn what their purpose is as the story goes on, which each of their purposes are as the story goes on.
Like, Dell almost, like, to me felt like the personification of like the healing process. Like, that's like when like the like coming to terms of like learning what you have to do to work through it. So it's really unique to kind of hear just like like your actual spin on it. Like, this is so deep, and I'm just very grateful and appreciative that you came on here to break it down with me, because I know we were talking about this, and I don't want to ask it because you this is something you probably get asked, but the fact that you have to like rehash these, this experience, I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, no worries, man.
So, I mean, this gets very heavy too. I mean, so we start off, the underlining tones of like what's kind of happening to Ben and everything is there, but it takes a very, very like dark turn very quickly. And I like it when you see, I guess, like what happened to his sister and father, like that was such like an abrupt like visualization. Like, what was going on in like Ben's like mind during that point?
So with that moment, we're starting to see that the monster, that depression is destroying all this good that Ben has tried to hold on to, these fantasies that Ben is holding on to. This is the start of it. This is the beginning of the end, as it were. When you're dealing with depression, you struggle to find joy in anything, even the things that you loved, just a year ago, or even a few weeks ago. There's no enjoyment out of it. It's a shell of what it used to be. And so these vapors, these things that been created to kind of capture these wants or these hopes or these dreams or these happy memories, being hunted down and destroyed in such a violent way. This is the monster. This is depression taking hold of that enjoyment, of that joy, and squashing it. And yeah, it does get really heavy. This is not a it's not a fun read. And I say I think it's an important read. I think it's a good read.
Yeah,
speaking as the writer of the book, as objectively as I can, I think it's a good read. And I think that there's I have something important to say with it. But it's definitely not lighthearted. And one of the concerns that I had whenever I broke up the script, or when I broke up the story from a complete graphic novel to individual issues, which I did for trying to be as realistic with my financial funding goals as possible. It was more financially likely that I could fund for a single issue as opposed to an entire graphic novel as a first-time writer. There was a concern in breaking it up because, like you saw, that first issue ends with a gut punch, right? Like that first issue ends on a very dark moment, and it I felt like there was a concern leaving it there, because the story of Hallowed North ultimately is supposed to be one about hope. It's going to be one about hope. Whenever all is said and done, whenever the issues are collected into a trade, this is a story about overcoming that darkness, but we have to get through it first. And it's gonna get shittier before it gets better. And that's just a part of the capturing that and showing that is a part of the responsibility that I've taken on in trying to do justice to people who struggle with depression. Tell that story.
We have a Ichthus over on YouTube stopping in to say what's up and asking a question. Are the pages from the book done traditionally, including the coloring? Looks like it's been done in watercolors.
So I believe, and Jay would be better suited to answer this question. I do believe it's digital, though. I do believe it's done digitally. I think he said that he does it through Clip Studio Paint or Clip Art Studio or Procreate. I think he does one for sketching and one for coloring. I got you.
Yeah, I would say the ending of this, as much of a gut punch as it is, I think it was a good cliffhanger. It definitely was a one that you want to see what's going to happen next. And speaking of that, let's go ahead, take a look at the pre-launch campaign, and then we'll dive right into taking a look at the first 6 preview pages. All right, so here is the upcoming project, Hallowed North, issue number 2, dark fantasy comic about mental illness. Chapter 2 is a limited series exploring the horror of depression and mind's last stand against unrelenting darkness. Congratulations, 80 followers. That seems like a pretty big number. Is that something that's pretty big? I'm new to
I think that that's a similar number to what we got the first time around. I'm hoping that I can use these next 2 weeks or this next week and a half now to bump it up a little bit more. So if anybody's watching that wants to hit that follow button,
guys,
by all means, please do. You can go to the Kickstarter
right
URL, but you can also go directly to hallowednorth.com too, and that'll redirect you to it.
Yeah, and I just posted a link in all the channels we're on. Be sure to get on there and follow. And if you follow, be sure to let us know in the comments, and we'll give you a little special shout out on Twitter. So when are you planning on going? I'll do that. When are you planning on going live officially with the campaign?
We are launching on June 21st. I want to say that it's going to be at 11 a.m. or something like that. There's something with the algorithm, everything is the algorithm, right? There's something with launching it specifically at 11 o'clock a.m. that works best. And our goal was, granted, a lot less ambitious the first time around, because the art production was funded out of pocket, so all we were funding for was printing. But we did that last time. We launched at on a Tuesday at 11, and we were able to get our funding goal in 8 hours. Because
wow! Did you end up
getting granted it was low. We got Project We Love.
Dude, that is congratulations on that. What was the goal?
It was like $1,300 or something like that. So like I said, it was really low. This next one is going to be is definitely going to be more ambitious. So we definitely need all hands on deck. If anybody is watching right now who's interested in learning more about Hallowed North, and just let you know, we are going to have bundles that include the first issue. You can back it and get the first issue as well. In addition to the second one.
Yeah, I was about to ask you because I wanted to buy a physical of the first one, but I was just going to wait until you ran this because it makes sense to help fund this, using the purchase of that. So that's cool. You're going to be able to do that. What's your funding goal? Are you able to talk about that, or is that something you still want to kind of keep under wraps?
So I have two numbers in mind. I'm not going to say my funding goal right now because I have two numbers in mind, and one of them is it's a debate that I'm going through mentally in my head right now leading up to it. Where I'm trying to see if financially if I can support more of the art production of the book up front to kind of lower that funding goal a little bit. So we're gonna see. That's probably something that's going to change. That's going to be like fluid until the night before, I'd say.
And real quick before we look at any of the previews, like any of the tiers that you can maybe like give us a little hint about, or any special add-ons or any stretch goals that you're maybe thinking about.
Yeah, sure. So with this campaign, we're kind of doing similar to what we did last time. We're offering we're offering digital copies, we're offering digital deluxe copies, because what we've learned from studying other Kickstarter campaigns is there are a lot of people international who want to support the book more or want more add-ons other than just a regular PDF of the book, but because of shipping expenses, shipping is crazy. Like nationally, it's crazy now, and internationally, there were some countries that I dealt with that had $30-$40 shipping fees. I was honored that anybody would pay that, but it was definitely, and we had a few countries, that wanted a copy of Hallowed North #1, a physical copy of Hallowed North #1. That was crazy, but crazy in a good way. I don't want to.
That's how you know you're hitting that. That's how you know you're hitting that mark, though, right? That they want to spend that to get it. Yeah.
But so a digital deluxe edition has like a prose short story included with it. It's got script pages and concept art and stuff like that people can look, digital files that people can look through. And that was a pretty popular tier last time around. Figured that we'd offer it again. There are variant covers that you can pick up from Heather Vaughn, and Jay also did a variant on the main cover. It's kind of a cool like VHS
that's cool,
black and white pixelated version of it. He has it like nicknamed the Fucks With You version, I think is what the file name was called. But yeah, there are options to get those. There are prints of the covers. There are bundles that kind of gives you everything if you want to get everything all together. But yeah, it's we have tiers starting off at $4. If you want to support the book, there's going to be something that you can offer for sure. That every bit of it's appreciated.
That is a good price. Let's go ahead and take a look at the preview, and we'll begin wrapping things up. So right off the rip, I really love the design for the cover. It kind of gives me a little bit of like a religious like tone. I don't know if that's out of pocket to say.
So whenever it's definitely there. The monster views itself as a messianic figure, like as a Christ-like figure to Ben. From the monster's perspective, it's doing what it can out of protecting Ben. It's trying to keep Ben from a lifetime of disappointment, trying to keep Ben from a lifetime of other people letting him down and failing him. And as we get more towards that, more into the preview, we're going to see where that kind of aligns. So whenever I thought about this cover design, I shot Jay a few notes, and I gave him a picture of Jesus, like a painting of Jesus as a reference. And I was like, something like reaching out and beckoning him forward, like the sweet release of death, essentially, is what he's calling to. calling you two. If you could do something like that. And Jay took it and he's like, I'm gonna make this as sacrilegious as I possibly can, and like Jay gave him the halo, and Jay, because I was talking about the pose, Jay gave him the halo. Jay put him in a Jesus loin,
You're probably like, oh man, you gotta take it off, it's too much.
When I saw it, I was like, I love it, but we're gonna piss some people off. And then I thought about it and I was like, fuck it, it's really good. And it really is good. I think it's a brilliant cover, and I think and it's beautifully done. I love the detail. And
so what's up the veins? Is this like a representation of like how poisonous it is, or like how venomous it is?
Well, that is a J detail. I
gotcha.
I would assume that it's just like added, characterization to them, like giving him some more, more than just a plain monstery,
like a grotesque like look to it.
But let's go with the infection spreading. Let's go with that. That's deeper, right?
Well, because I don't know. In my mind, like I'm like visualizing like this part like it's toxic, right? Like this is like a venomous part of depression, So that's the kind of sometimes it doesn't hurt to ask. You always get surprised by answers.
For all I know, that's exactly what he was going for.
Right here is the credit to the creative team on the project. Just to glance over it for you all. And right here, this was another really interesting one too. So we have Why Do You Run? Is this like shattered glass or?
Yeah, this is broken glass. This is alluding to the fact that our character that we're following is about to be thrown through a window. Plus, I also just like the imagery of it. Whenever I started writing this sequel, the second issue, or whenever I started, because I actually had it as a graphic novel and I started breaking it down into individual issues. So I had the whole bones already laid out. But whenever I was breaking this one down, I didn't want to edit it as much, or I didn't want to edit down the pages as much. So this is a longer book. This is going to be, I believe, 32 pages is what it comes out to. So about 10 pages longer than 22 pages is the length of the first book. So there was some argument within myself, some internal arguing that I shouldn't waste an entire splash page on a piece of broken glass with just one piece of text. But I love the way that it works. I love the feeling. Yeah, I love it. And so I was like, let's go with it. And I think it's a really great way to start the book.
Yes.
And we see, so it's the monster taunting our main character, because this picks up moments after the end of the first issue. We're following the character of Vivian, who has just found out that her daughter and her husband have been brutally eviscerated by
God.
The monster.
When you got that panel, what was your initial thought? Because that was a pretty grotesque image. Like, I was like, damn, dude.
There's this line in Scrooged, which is a Bill Murray parody of A Christmas Carol. And he's like a TV executive or something, and he sees something grotesque, like supposedly on set, and his first line is, "We're gonna get phone calls." That's his response to it. And so whenever I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a child that we have, And technically, you can see her right now on the screen, right there. Jay put it back
right
in
there.
But I read autumnal. Or autumnal, or I don't know how to properly pronounce it. But that's a graphic novel that was published by, I want to say, Vault. And it had some pretty gnarly kid death in it. And I was like, oh, you know what? Let's go for it. We're telling the story. We're going to do it the way that it needs to be told. And he nailed it perfectly. I mean, he wrote exactly what I had on the panel and brought it to life. I think that there's an initial shock, because when you write the words themselves aren't as powerful as the image. When you actually see it, like, oh, that's what that is. That's what that looks like. And again, I mean, I can't speak enough of Jay's talent and his ability to really create scarily beautiful stuff.
No, for sure, without a doubt. And right here is another beautiful. I love this so much too, when she's looking over and you could see the fear in her eyes, and then right here is just it reaches down, and then, oh God, this was Like, and we were talking about this earlier. This is something that you can't, like, when you're writing, it's hard to get this visualization. Like right here when she's holding her chest and she's like praying to God, like, let this be, like, you know, let me get away, and then like boom. Like, this is just gorgeous.
Yeah, this bottom right or bottom left panel, this one of Vivian clutching her chest, like, this is actually, I think that's one of my favorite panels that Jay's done so far. I love this whole page.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's the line that the monster says, "Aren't you the mother he always wanted?" So we're fine. We're indicating that this is the purpose. In the last one, we learn that Dell is this manifestation of Ben's grandfather. Here we're learning that Vivian is this mother that Ben wished that he could have had, you know. And in the follow-up page, we get to see how the monster views himself as this protector, almost in a weird way, whenever he says the words, "Or are you just another disappointment?" Because Ben has, you know, what depression does is it beats you down and it talks you down, and every thought that you have is poisonous. And so when you feel that way, you're second guessing people that you love. You're questioning motives.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at all the bad, and you're seeing nothing but that darkness. And so it makes sense to have this personification of it, verbalizing it out loud for you.
And the fear.
And then boom, Hallowed North.
I loved the last one too. You had the note from Ben.
The letter that was
mm-hmm.
written. I wrote that as a postcard that I gave away for promotions in comic book stores. So there was a little postcard that I created, and I slapped that on.
Oh, that's so cool.
And put that out as promotional material for comic book shops around Texas.
What is what's the variant cover that we're looking at? Like, what correlation does this have? So
that's Aurelia. She is one of our more fantastical elements of Hallowed North. Right now, what I'll say, I don't want to spoil.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Surprise regarding her. Right now, what I'll say is that she is a protector of Ben, or she's this representation of that kind of protection. Mm-hmm. And it's obvious. It's canine. We get a look of her in a brief look of her in issue 1. She's a wolf. And we're going to get to see more of her. But yeah, she's definitely one of the more fantastical elements of the issue. And she might be coming toe-to-toe with the monster.
Is this the thing you were talking about earlier?
That's the Fucks With You cover.
Yeah. No, I love it. All right, let's go ahead. Get this removed, and we'll go back to our main camera. So, with that being said, I'm going to post this one more time. For anyone that's out there that, you know, they're on the fence about following, being notified for when this launch, what would you like to say to them directly? You know, it's as easy as clicking it, I know, but for anyone that's kind of just on the fence, what would you like to say to them directly?
I think that Hallowed North is a story that means a lot to, if it doesn't mean a lot to you, it might mean a lot to somebody that you do know. I want to say that mental illness is something that we're still learning a lot about, that we're still understanding a lot about. It's still something that people don't really want to openly talk about, that a lot of people still don't want to talk about. So chances are that you know somebody who's going through these struggles, mm-hmm. Or you're doing it yourself. I'm trying to tell a story that kind of opens up the mind to that and kind of shows what we go through. And the feedback that I've gotten from the first issue has been genuinely touching. One person called it the most real horror story that they've ever read, based on their own experiences with mental illness. Somebody said that it captures those dark feelings perfectly. That it's like a window into the mind of and how it deals with depression. I think that if you're looking for a thought-provoking story, check it out. I think that if you're looking for a good horror story, check it out, because it also is just creepy, as creepy as fuck sometimes too. Check out Hallowed North. It's definitely worth a read.
We also have Shrine of Mad Laughter over on YouTube saying from the first issue alone, it's completely worth getting.
I really do appreciate that.
That's so awesome. So, real quick before we wrap up, I always love these interviews for being like not only a promotion for you and your work, but a learning tool for other creators. But I want to do something different. For my last question for you, what would you like to say to anyone out there that's going through something of their own, form of hell, depression, what have you? What would you like to say to them to kind of reach out to them?
There are cliches that anybody could say that will feel hollow and will feel rehearsed or canned. Things like you have so much to live for. You're just hold on. What I'll tell you, whoever's listening, what I would say is, yes, it may sound rehearsed, or you may want to pick it apart, because I know it's hard to hear anything positive whenever you're really in the thick of it, but you have to find one little thing worth holding on to and worth fighting for. If even if it's just one little goal that you can give yourself, and don't suffer alone. I know that it's difficult to talk about things, but find somebody to talk to, even if it's, messaging me. If you want to message me, I would much rather, you let me know what's going on with you than to find out that something happened. I have been at my absolute darkest. I have been at a point where I felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I have felt the weight of crushing depression, and every other thought that I had was, they're better off without you. You could end everything and they would be happier. And when you hear that nonstop, it's hard to fight against it, but I promise you that it's worth it. As difficult as it is, as much as you're limping to that finish line, it's worth making it there, because it will get better. It will get better.
I'm so happy you made it too, man. I'm so happy you made it too. And
thank you.
I think that was such a beautiful and powerful message. Like it is cliche, but you need to drag yourself by your fingertips, and because dude, think about it, I look back and I'm like 5 years from now, I'm like, dude, I never would have envisioned it would have been this good, because you don't think about it like that. You think about where you're at and where you're sinking and because when you're sinking, that's all you could do is sink. And for me, I didn't want to reach out to anyone. I was afraid that, if reaching out to you, you would sink with me. I would bring you down with me. And I didn't want to do that. If I was self-destructing, I didn't want to bring people I loved in with me, so it is one of those things where it's so hard to reach out, but that you have to, because it's the more you bottle it up, it's I look at it like just poison that you're containing, and it just keeps eating you away.
Yeah, absolutely. And then eventually when it does come out, it's not on your terms, and it manifests in very unhealthy ways.
No, that is
because it will come out.
Yes. And as always, guys, if it's ever too heavy, reach out to a paid professional. If it's ever something where you are having very dark thoughts, always reach out to a paid professional or someone hotline. There's hotlines for every different nationality. I will put those in the description as well. Man, thank you so much for coming on. This was this is probably one of my deepest
Thank you for inviting
interviews. Me. Holy crap, Jeremiah! This was awesome. I really appreciate you just giving us insight into Hallowed North and just everything in between, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Cody. I had a great time on the show.
And guys, once again, right here is the link. Be sure to back it. And you said it's just a couple weeks that you're going to go live, right?
Yeah, I think now we're actually at a week and some change.
So week and some change, guys. Stay tuned for it. With that being said, it is a beautiful Sunday. I have to end it off. My significant other is getting off from work, and I got to spend some time with her too. Got to break away from those comics. So with that being said, Jeremiah, thank you for once again coming on, guys. I hope you have an awesome night, but most importantly, keep it geekly.